Most people want success. That is not a controversial statement. Ask anyone you know if they want a better life, more financial freedom, a stronger body, a more meaningful career, and almost every single one of them will say yes, without hesitation. The desire is there. It is real. And it is nearly universal. But here's the part that gets uncomfortable. Most of those same people will not have it. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because opportunity never came, not because the system was against them, or the timing was wrong, or someone failed them early in life. Most of them will not have it because they were not willing to feel what success actually requires you to feel. They wanted the result. They were not prepared for the process. And those are two very different things. That gap between wanting something and being willing to endure what it costs, that is where most lives quietly fall apart. Success, at its core, is not a glamorous experience. It does not look the way it does in the highlight reel. It does not feel like momentum every day. In its truest form, success is a long sequence of uncomfortable, repetitive, often invisible actions, performed without applause, without confirmation, and without any guarantee that it will work. It is sitting down to do the work when nothing inside you wants to. It is choosing the harder option so many times in a row that it stops feeling noble and starts feeling like burden. It is not exciting. It is not cinematic. Most of it is quiet and still and heavy. The people who achieve something real, they understand this. They are not chasing the feeling of success. They are tolerating the reality of it. Think about what the early stages of genuine progress actually feel like. You are waking up before the rest of the world has moved. There is no crowd watching. No one is tracking your effort. The alarm sounds, and the room is dark, and your body does not want to cooperate, and there is no external force pulling you out of that comfort. There is only you, and the decision you made the night before, and the question of whether that decision still holds now that the moment has arrived. That is where character is shaped. Not in the speech, not in the declaration. In that small, private, daily negotiation between who you are and who you have decided to become. And it is not just the early mornings, it is the missed distractions. The scrolling you didn't do, the event you didn't attend, the conversation you kept short because you had something to protect. People around you begin to notice. Some of them will call it antisocial, some will call it arrogance. Some, more quietly, will call it a phase. They will wait for you to come back to what feels normal to them. And you will have to be comfortable enough in your own direction to let them wait, without needing to explain yourself, without needing their approval, and without slowly drifting back toward ease just to maintain peace in your relationships. That is isolation. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. The kind where you are surrounded by people who care about you, and you still feel the distance of a different set of priorities. It is not loneliness in the tragic sense, but it is solitude, and solitude for many people is more uncomfortable than almost anything else. Then there is the self-doubt. And here I want to be careful, because self-doubt is not weakness. Self-doubt is the natural response of an intelligent mind to genuine uncertainty. If you are doing something hard, something that matters, something you have never done before, your mind will question it. That is not malfunction. That is cognition. The question is not whether doubt will appear. It will. The question is what you do while it is there. Do you treat it as information, examine it briefly, and continue regardless? Or do you treat it as instruction and stop? Most people treat doubt as instruction. They feel uncertain, and they interpret that feeling as a sign that they should pause, reconsider, or retreat. They do not understand that the presence of doubt does not mean the direction is wrong. It often means the opposite. It means you are in unfamiliar territory, and unfamiliar territory is exactly where growth lives. Now consider what modern life has done to the average person's tolerance for discomfort. We live in an era designed around the rapid elimination of friction. Food is delivered. Entertainment is instant. Approval comes in the form of a small notification. Boredom is treated as a problem to be solved immediately. Every product, every platform, every system in your daily environment is engineered to move you from discomfort to comfort as quickly as possible. That is not an accident. That is the business model. And the psychological consequence of living inside that system without awareness of it is that your endurance threshold shrinks. Your capacity to sit with something hard, to hold a long-term goal when short-term pain is present, to resist the option of relief, that capacity quietly erodes. Not dramatically, gradually. In the same way that a muscle you never use becomes unrecognizable over years. This is why quitting has become so reflexive for so many people. It is not moral failure, it is conditioning. When discomfort feels abnormal, when the first sign of resistance triggers an immediate desire to stop, quitting stops being a decision and starts being a default. It becomes the path of least psychological resistance, chosen not out of weakness in character, but out of the absence of practice in endurance. And the dangerous part is that every time you quit when it gets hard, you are not just stopping one thing. You are teaching yourself something. You are reinforcing a pattern of behavior. You are building a psychological reference point that says, when this feeling arrives, we stop. And over time, that reference point becomes identity. It becomes who you believe you are. Not the person who pushed through, the person who recognized it wasn't working and walked away. And that reframing, calling retreat by the name of wisdom, is one of the most sophisticated forms of self-deception a person can engage in. Let me be direct about something. There is a real difference between strategic reassessment and convenient quitting, and most people know, privately, which one they are doing. If you have done the work consistently, measured the results honestly, and concluded that the direction needs to change, that is intelligence. That is useful. But if you are 2 months into something that requires 2 years, and the discomfort of the middle has become unbearable, and you are now constructing reasons why it was the wrong goal, that is not wisdom. That is the mind protecting itself from pain at the cost of your future. Here is what endurance actually produces. And I am not talking about toughness in the performative sense, the idea of someone visibly straining through hardship. I am talking about something quieter and more structural. When you hold a difficult commitment past the point where you wanted to quit, something changes in how you see yourself. Not immediately. Over time, you build a record. A private, internal record that says, I have been here before, it was uncomfortable, and I continued. And that record becomes the foundation of real confidence. Not confidence from compliments. Not confidence from early results. Confidence from the accumulation of kept promises to yourself. That is identity. That is the slow construction of the person you are claiming to become. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive all at once, but it compounds. In the same way that discipline compounds, in the same way that skill compounds, the evidence of your own reliability compounds into something that no external validation can give you, and no external criticism can fully remove. Now consider 2 men in identical circumstances. Same goal, same starting point, same access to information and time. The first man begins with intensity. He works hard in the early days when motivation is fresh and the novelty is sustaining him. Then, the novelty fades. The results are slower than expected. The process becomes repetitive. One morning he does not feel like it, and he gives himself permission to rest. Then, another morning. Then the rest becomes the default, and the work becomes the exception, and 6 months later he is still at the starting line. But now, with the additional weight of knowing he stopped. He has not lost time. He has lost more than time. He has lost evidence of himself. The second man is not more talented. He is not more motivated. In fact, on many mornings, his motivation is no different from the first man's. He does not feel like it either. The difference is that he does not require himself to feel like it. He has separated the action from the emotion. He understands that discipline is not the presence of desire. It is the presence of structure in the absence of desire. He shows up anyway. He does less on hard days because doing less is not the same as stopping. He adjusts. He continues. And over months, over years, the gap between those two men becomes so wide that it appears from the outside as though they had different levels of talent. They did not. They had different levels of tolerance. This is the part that most motivational content gets wrong. It treats motivation as the driver of success. It does not understand that motivation is a feeling, and feelings are temporary, and building a life on a temporary feeling is structurally unstable. Motivation will arrive on some days and be completely absent on others. It is not a system, it is a weather pattern. Discipline is a system. Discipline is the thing that operates when motivation is gone, when results are slow, when no one is watching, when the discomfort is real and the reward is distant. Discipline is what turns intention into outcome. And the reason discipline is rare is not because it requires superhuman ability. It is because it requires the consistent tolerance of a specific quality of discomfort. The discomfort of doing what you committed to doing even when you do not feel aligned with it in the moment. Even when something easier is available, even when stopping would bring immediate relief. Let me say something about fear, because it belongs in this conversation. There is a widespread and damaging myth that successful people operate without fear, that they are simply built differently, wired in a way that makes risk feel comfortable and uncertainty feel like opportunity. This is not true. The people who build something real, who hold a difficult path long enough to reach the other side, they are not fearless. They are afraid in the same moments and in many of the same ways as everyone else. The difference is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to allow fear to make the final decision. If you are willing to pay the price, comment below, I accept the pain.